and also delighted that I get to be the person launching us into this celebration of the joint launch of the Future of Law Lab and the Investor Protection Clinic. We're holding a joint event for these two programs because they both exist due to the generosity and support of Hal Jackman. And in that context, I very much want to acknowledge Hal's contribution to the University of Toronto Faculty of Law for a long period of time, and thank him for his consistent support. Now, there's, I think, also a kind of a substantive reason for having these two events coincide, and that is the fact that although at first glance the Future of Law Lab and the Investor Protection Clinic might seem to be unrelated, it actually turns out that there are lots of areas of overlap. And one of the things that we like to do at the faculty is to make sure that different parts of the program and our different programs communicate with one another and find ways to collaborate and find ways to kind of create synergies, if you will. And so we'll see some of that on display tonight as well, in the sense that we will be hearing on topics that might be on some people's minds, given what's been happening in the world out there recently. But these kinds of themes of overlap areas include big tech in the wealth management space, and also the impact of technology and social media on the market. So you can see that this will get quite interesting today. Let me give you a little bit of background to the extent that you're not familiar with these two new initiatives. So the Investor Protection Clinic was actually, even though we're celebrating the launch today, it did start operating in the fall of 2020. It provides free legal services and public legal education to members of vulnerable communities who are at risk of suffering harm or may have, in fact, suffered harm and financial loss relating to their investments. Those communities include, for example, the elderly and newcomers to Canada. The director of the clinic, and we'll hear from her a little bit later, is Ivy Lam, who's an LLB 1997 graduate of the Faculty of Law. And what the clinic aims to do is to be informed by clients' experiences and to then engage in a broad range of activities to educate the community and promote investor protection and investor rights. And also, it being a clinic, it will provide our students with really unique opportunities to learn through assisting clients with their legal claims, developing and delivering public legal education, and collaborating with regulators and key stakeholders on policy projects and litigation. Turning to the Future of Law Lab, it too was in fact launched in September 2020, and it is meant to be a platform for students, academics, lawyers, and other professionals to participate in collaborative initiatives that explore the intersection of law, innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. And here, again, we can proudly say that one of our alumni, in this case, a 2014 LLM alumnus, is the director, and that is Josh Morrison, and you'll hear from him a little bit later on as well. So the Future of Law Lab is a hub for interdisciplinary activity, from academic to guest talks to workshops, events, and to externships for students, and much more. So far, the lab has run a number of speaker series focusing on artificial intelligence and issues of bias, as well as on technology's impact on the law and society. The lab will also be exploring legal technology entrepreneurship this year, legal design and design thinking, and developing an innovator's mindset. Now, let me briefly say something about what is in store for you now. First of all, our keynote speaker, Neil Gross, the chair of the Ontario Securities Commission's Investor Advisory Panel. Then Ed Iacobucci, professor of law and TSE chair in capital markets at the Faculty of Law. We will have a video message from the Minister of Public Services and Procurement and Receiver General for Canada, Professor Anita Anand. We'll hear from Anthony Niblett, Associate Professor and Canada Research Chair in Law, Economics and Innovation, and the Academic Advisor to the Future of Law Lab. And then we'll hear from Ivy Lam, the Director of the Investor Protection Clinic, and Joss Morrison, the Director of the Future of Law Lab. And now I have to say I'm especially delighted to be able to turn it over to Ed Iacobucci, whom I've already sort of introduced, but he probably does not need any introduction at all in the circle. But I would be remiss in saying that he, of course, is my immediate predecessor. He was the Dean of the Faculty of Law until December of last year. And he, in fact, is a lot of this came into being is due to his initiative and vision. So he was instrumental in making this happen. So it's my great pleasure to turn it over to you, Ed, and to take us further into the proceedings.
Well, thank you very much, Jutta. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here today. I think these two new programs are wonderful additions to the Faculty of Law. To add, a little context, although Jutta's provided a lot, the way I see it, our co-curricular programming at the faculty is already second to none. And these programs are just going to add further to that. Our co-curricular programming offers our students, especially, but also our faculty members, staff, exposure to the law in practice in a lot of different fields, while also resonating and interacting with the academic ideas that lie at the faculty's core. At the same time, these programs and clinics provide valuable services to the broader community. So the Investor Protection Clinic and the Future of Law Lab will provide our faculty community with the opportunity not only to participate in legal issues on the ground, actual legal matters, but also to inform and hopefully shape discussions and debates about the law and its application. So while our programs vary considerably, there's a thread that connects them together. Our society comes up short on access to justice, and the programs, including these two new programs that we're launching today, in different ways address the problem of access to justice. Too often, in my view, commentary relies on casual, but to me, ultimately unconvincing assertions that access to justice is a problem because there's a monopoly, quote, monopoly that the legal profession has over providing legal services. Well, in Ontario, there's over 55,000 licensed lawyers. And if they are active in practice, most of them are practiced in very small firms. So there's a staggering array of competition in the legal services market. Compare that to, say, telecom, for example. Many licensees, in fact, do not practice because it's not financially viable for them to do so. So it's not obvious to me that it's a lack of competition that's creating our access to justice problem. My own view is that it's too often the case that the legal profession may be responsible for the problem, but it's because we lack sufficient imagination. Our processes and sometimes our legal substance are the culprits, in my view. We've got archaic and unnecessarily complicated processes and again, indeed substantive law in too many different areas. So even if a lawyer was charging relatively low hourly rates, if a process requires 100 hours of a lawyer's time, the bill's going to be substantial and it's going to create access to justice problems. So the Investor Protection Clinic and the Future of Law Lab are both going to make valuable contributions, I think, in slightly different ways, but in complementary ways to improving access to justice. And this will further deepen opportunities for our students to learn about law and practice while making a difference in the broader community. So the Investor Protection Clinic, as you know, helps protect vulnerable communities from a wide range of potentially dubious practices that can unfortunately arise in the investment industry. I've had some exposure to this on a personal level, being involved with the Investment Industry Regulatory Organization of Canada. And it seemed very clear from where I sat then, concerns about vulnerable investors, including perhaps especially the elderly and new Canadians, as Jutta said, are on the rise. Technology has something to do with that, but it's not just because of that. So the Investor Protection Clinic, under the leadership of Ivy Lam, is poised not only to make a difference to individuals needing guidance, but also, I hope, to play a really valuable role in policy debates better ensuring that perspectives of the vulnerable inform the development of the law and regulation and process around investor protection. The Future of Law Lab will also have a role to play in addressing access to justice. Changing these are what I've described as archaic processes in substantive law requires legal knowledge, intelligence, and creativity. All of these elements are in ample supply amongst our students, staff, and faculty. Technological change alone brings the potential for significant improvement in the legal profession, and the Future of Law Lab will provide a forum to discuss, invent, and promote change. Again, under the leadership of Josh Morrison, I expect the Future of Law Lab to make a profound contribution to both our faculty and to the broader community. Let me return to also something that Jutta said about thanks. I want to express my personal thanks to our benefactor, Hal Jackman. Investor protection and reimagining the law and the way the legal profession operates are both critically important in his eyes. And I'm grateful to him both for the intellectual conversations and the inspiration that lie behind these clinics and programs, but also the financial support to help make them happen. One of Hal Jackman, Jutta mentioned that he's given frequently to the faculty. Another gift that he made to the faculty, and a related one, was to establish the Kimber Chair in Investor Protection and Corporate Governance. This was held by the then Professor Anita Anand until she took a leave to become, despite what the newspapers say, really a world-leading vaccine shopper. It's my pleasure to introduce a video clip from her this evening. So let me just say a couple of words more about Anita. The Honorable Anita Anand is the Member of Parliament for Oakville and is Minister of Public Services and Procurement and the Receiver General for Canada. Her work as an academic and a policy influencer put investor protection at its core. So she was the inaugural chair of the OSC's Investor Advisory Panel. She was appointed by Ontario's Minister of Finance to the expert committee to consider financial advisory and financial planning policy alternatives. And her work has been recognized in the Academy as well as these contributions outside it. So in 2019, the Royal Society of Canada awarded her the Yvonne Hilaire Medal for her outstanding contributions in governance relating to private and public organizations. So I am delighted to be a part of this launch. I think they will be wonderful assets to the faculty now and to come. And I'm also delighted to turn it over to hear from Anita now.
Hello, my name is Anita Anand, and I am a professor at the University of Toronto, Faculty of Law, on leave while I am participating in federal political life. And I just wanted to take a moment today to say hello to everyone, as well as to congratulate you on the launch of the Investor Protection Lab and the Future of Law Lab. I feel a tinge of sadness that I am not there with you, of course, but I also think that the launch of these labs is testament to the incredible curriculum that the University of Toronto Law School has, and in particular, the ability that we have to meld the world of learning law with the world of practicing law. I was a scholar of corporate and securities law before I entered political life, and I spent many, many hours analyzing how we can use the Securities Act to ensure that investors are protected. And so I hope for the very best for both of these labs, and I will be thinking of you and looking forward to hearing many more good stories about these labs. All my very best to you, and bye-bye.
So nice to see Anita again. Thank you very much for everyone for coming out. It's obviously a shame that we can't be launching these two terrific programs in person. My name is Anthony Niblett. Hello. I'm an associate professor at the Faculty of Law. I'm the Canada Research Chair in Law, Economics and Innovation. And I'm also the academic advisor to the Future of Law Lab. We are extraordinarily fortunate at the University of Toronto and at the Faculty of Law in particular to have so many scholars who have worldwide reputation, worldwide recognition for their work looking at the future of law. We've got people who are researching what the law will look like in 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 years, and what the law should look like in the future. We've got scholars who are working on the normative implications of AI. We've got scholars who work on privacy and data governance issues. We've got scholars who research how the government and the judiciary can leverage technology to improve the administration of law. And we've got scholars who research some of the challenges and limitations associated with using technology that way. We've got researchers who look at how the practice of law is going to change in the coming years. We've got such a stellar faculty that really draws from just a stunning variety of interdisciplinary approaches. And I think there's something very, very special about the University of Toronto in that regard, especially how future-oriented so many of the faculty are. From my own perspective, much of my research is centered around predictive technology. That is, how can we use machine learning technology to improve our information base, the information that we use to base our legal decisions upon? How do we use machine learning technology to better understand our legal rights and our legal responsibilities? And how do we use machine learning technology to help improve access to justice? And these big questions that we're all asking and answering, these aren't just questions that we write about in the ivory tower and talk about with other academics. These are things that we work with the government, we work with practitioners, and it's changing the way that we teach. It's changing the way we teach. And I'm not just talking about teaching online and teaching through Zoom. I'm talking about the content that we teach. And I'm not just talking about upper year courses on technology. We do have an innovation stream of our GPLLM. We do teach courses in AI, blockchain, disruptive technology, data governance, privacy. Those courses are new and those courses are very exciting. But it's also changing the way we teach our existing courses. I teach competition law, and the changes in technology and society that are from the last few years that have come around, fundamentally changing the way we think about competition law. The rise of the tech giants has made us revisit some of the objectives and what we think the purpose of competition law is. I know in tax law, Professor Allery is introducing modules on machine learning and how we can use it to better understand how tax judges are deciding cases. In administrative law, I know there's teachers who are talking about what happens when tribunals, such as the Refugee and Immigration Tribunal, start delegating some of their authority and their decision-making to algorithms. I teach contract law. What happens to contract law where you have instantaneous algorithmic arbitration? What happens to issues like Hadley and Baxendale, that when we're talking about what is reasonably foreseeable in light of predictive technologies? I'm going to be teaching torts next year, and I think a really fascinating question is, what does it mean for a robot to take reasonable care? There's a lot of important questions about who bears responsibility for the actions of autonomous agents. If you teach criminal law, I think it would be criminal not to teach about algorithmic assessments of risk and how it's affecting sentencing. In constitutional law, there are big questions of freedom of expression with regards to the nexus between government and some of these tech giants. And if you teach property law, there's big questions about the moral arguments for intellectual property rights, given that AI could be creating and innovating, and so for the cost of creating and innovating goes down so much. All this is to say is, whatever you work in and whatever you teach, the future of law is here. And I think it's an incredibly exciting time to be thinking about these questions. I think it's an incredibly exciting time to be exploring these questions and to be teaching the best law students in the country about these questions that are no doubt going to affect the way that they practice law. And I should just say about our students, they have an absolute thirst for this material, and they are incredible. There's this group called Legal Hackers at the law school who have this amazing energy and who I'm working with to develop some legal tech that will help tenants better understand their legal rights. Following through with what Ed was talking about how tech can be used to promote access to justice. I've been a professor for about 10 years now, and I can't think of a more exciting time to be part this legal academic mission. And that's why I think this Future of Law Lab is so important. It gives a home at the law school to bring in speakers who think about these sorts of issues, to promote the work of our incredible faculty on these questions, and to give our students the tools and the information that they are going to need to thrive as lawyers in the near future. And hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to have in-person conferences where we'll be able to build more bridges between the Future of Law Lab and practicing lawyers and those who make the law. I'm incredibly excited by what we're doing. Thank you very much to Hal Jackman for his vision and support. And I'm thrilled to see this fantastic turnout this evening. And with that, I will hand it over to the director of the Future of Law Lab, Josh Morrison. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anthony. My name is Josh Morrison, and I'm the director of the Future of Law Lab. I'm a lawyer and a graduate of the LLM program at the University of Toronto. I come out of the innovation and technology field, and I was previously the director of innovation for a legal tech company. I led the client retention, business consulting, and research and development programs. So while I was in that role, one of my main responsibilities was to coach our clients, who were all lawyers and mediators, many of them sole proprietors. And I focused on the benefits of technology adoption, process improvement, marketing, and delivering efficiencies to the end customer. So almost universally, I saw that the lawyers there were invigorated by these concepts, and they were really eager to implement them in their own practice. We always joke that the legal profession is traditional and inflexible, but I was actually amazed at the attitudes of the lawyers that I met with and their willingness to engage with ideas that might have been outside of their comfort zone. The one constant that I would always hear from them is that I wish I was exposed to this kind of thing earlier in my career. Now, the reason I tell the story is twofold. First, to illustrate the genuine desire in the legal community to explore the ideas that surround the Future of Law Lab, and that's from students to faculty to staff and lawmakers. And second, to ask, how much more of an impact could our future lawyers make on the world if they have an opportunity to tackle these issues right in law school? So this is part of what we're doing at the Future of Law Lab, acting as a hub of interdisciplinary activity to bring together individuals from all backgrounds to examine the changing face of the legal profession. Let me give you a sense of some of the programming we've run to date in our first year and some initiatives that we have planned for the near future. During our inaugural speaker series event last October, Maura Grossman, a lawyer and a professor of computer science from the University of Waterloo, spoke to us about the fundamentals of artificial intelligence and issues of bias within that field. Maura wowed the audience. She really simplified an intimidating topic down into its component parts and helped us to understand what artificial intelligence really is, how it works, and how it's being applied in the legal profession. We were also fortunate to have Schwartz-Reisman Institute Director, Gillian Hadfield, join us for a discussion with Professor Niblett on technology's impact on law and on society in general. We focused on the explosion of machine learning, the ethics of AI, and the way average citizens will interact with the law in the future. Earlier this year, we collaborated with the Career Development Office to hold a career panel entirely geared towards individuals who want to work in the legal technology industry or who are interested in starting their own pathways as an entrepreneur. We had panelists who work for cryptocurrency foundations, legal tech startups, and in technology practice groups. Moving forward, we'll continue to host our speaker series with future events around topics such as innovative thinking, machine learning tools, legal design, analytics, and data governance. We're also working on developing practical interactive workshops where students will have the opportunity to engage with real legal problems and utilize creative problem-solving methods to devise unique solutions to these problems. Today, I'm very excited to formally announce that students can now sign up for our first workshop called Legal Design Lab in an afternoon. And this will be held on March 5th and will focus on generating better legal solutions for clients. We hope to expand this concept in future years, focusing on a number of different practice areas. Finally, the Future of Law Lab is also involved in creating unique summer opportunities for students. This year, we're partnering with university-based incubators, legal tech companies, and in-house counsel groups for an exciting portfolio of summer opportunities. As you've heard tonight, the Future of Law Lab sits at the intersection of law, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I'm incredibly passionate about each of these things, and I invite you to join me and the Future of Law Lab as we dive deeper into each of them. If you'd like to learn more, please visit our website at futureoflaw.utoronto.ca or follow us on Twitter at Future of Law Lab, or just get in touch with me. I'm happy to engage in any of these conversations. You can get in touch with us at either of those locations that I mentioned before. And again, that's futureoflaw.utoronto.ca or at Future of Law Lab on Twitter. So with that said, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Ivy Lamb, the inaugural director of the Investor Protection Clinic. An alumna, Ivy joins us after 20 years of practicing law with global law firms in London, UK, with a focus on international structured finance. Her past positions include consulting with Allen & Overy and Simmons & Simmons, director and associate general counsel at Standard & Poor's, and counsel at White & Case. In all of these roles, Ivy was dedicated to mentoring and supporting junior lawyers. Please welcome Ivy Lamb.
Thank you, Josh. Hi, everyone. On behalf of the new Investor Protection Clinic and all the students who have volunteered and participated in the clinic's initiatives, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our donor, Hal Jackman, for his generous gift, and to thank everyone, including many in attendance right now, who have contributed their time, their talent, and energy to make this new clinic possible. The clinic will fill a critical gap in our community by providing legal support to retail investors who would not have access to representation otherwise. The clinic also provides our students with invaluable experiential learning opportunities, a space where they can engage in advocacy, policy development, and deliver public legal education to the community. Since last September, the clinic has formed over 7 working groups, all staffed by student volunteers. Our projects have included a policy paper responding to the Canadian Securities Administrators' recent consultation on the self-regulatory organization framework. The students have also worked on cross-jurisdictional research for the OSC's Investor Advisory Panel, and they're currently working on a number of public legal education initiatives to improve financial and investment literacy and to promote investor protection. Our guest speaker, Neil Gross, has been a great friend to the clinic. As chair of the OSC's Investor Advisory Panel, he gave one of our working group of students the opportunity to help inform the panel's work on the modernization of the capital markets. In addition, Neil is a director of the Canadian Foundation for Advancement of Investor Rights. This is FAIR Canada. He's a director of Croft Financial Group, a member of the Independent Review Committee for Accelerate Financial Technologies, and a fellow of the public policy advocacy organization CanAge. His volunteer work includes acting as a director of Family Councils Ontario. This is a public charity dedicated to supporting family advocacy for residents of nursing homes and long-term care facilities across Ontario. He also sits on the Vulnerable Investor Task Force convened by the Investment Funds Institute of Canada. Previously, he enjoyed a 30-year career as a lawyer litigating investor loss claims and regulatory enforcement cases. Now, I guess, as a hobby, he's a periodic columnist for the Globe and Mail, and he draws on all of his experience to explore the social impact of financial regulation. Neil, welcome, and I turn the virtual floor over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Ivy, and thank you, Josh and Anthony and Dean Brunnée and Dean Iacobucci for allowing me to join you in celebrating the launch of these 2 very interesting and important programs. Very happy to be here today. Before I start, I need to kind of give a disclaimer, and I'd also like to make a confession. The disclaimer is simply that I'm not here today speaking on behalf of the OSC, and any things I express today are just my personal views. As to the confession, I have to tell you that I'm really feeling a little bit desperate today because I've been given a bit of a huge topic to discuss, the impact of technology and artificial intelligence on the future of law as seen through the lens of investor protection. And I've been asked to talk about all that in about 15 minutes. So my confession is that I'm going to have to cheat. I'm going to have to come up with a shortcut of some sort. something that I can say about technology and the law that they have in common, so I can speak about them both at the same time and kind of kill two birds with one stone. So here's what I've come up with. This is my thesis. Technology and the law are both intimately associated with human stupidity. Let me just unpack that. When you get right down to it, the law is really all about human stupidity. At its core, in its essence, the law is just society's institutional mechanism for dealing with all the idiotic, foolish, and nasty things that humans do. Society uses the law to stop people from doing stupid, harmful things, and the law is used to punish people who do those things. So really, the law isn't the sort of bumbling ass that Dickens described. It's much more a badass for dealing with a lot of dumbass. And in that sense, human stupidity is really what gives the law its purpose. Now, the link between technology and stupidity is perhaps less obvious, but I'm going to try and illustrate it for you right now using some old technology, maybe the oldest or one of the oldest forms of technology. So here I have a hammer and a nail. And, you know, humans have been using hammers and objects like them since the Stone Age. And it's interesting to note that in all that time, we've been using hammers pretty safely overall. I mean, sure, some of our thumbs have gotten mashed along the way, but you know, the one thing that we humans have not done with hammers through all the millennia, the one thing we have not done is hammer nails into our own heads. That's not something that we've tended to do. That is to say, until advances in technology gave us these things. This is a nail gun, and it is an awesome piece of technology. This thing will fire nails into the hardest of surfaces, and it will do so powerfully with great speed. It is very accurate, very precise, and of course, also very dangerous. I mean, after all, it's a gun that shoots out nails. But it does come with multiple built-in safety mechanisms that are designed to prevent accidents. And yet, if you Google nail gun injuries, you will quickly see on your screen just hundreds of images of gruesome injuries, including a seemingly endless stream of x-rays of people's skulls with, nails in their heads. And you'll also see statistics about the thousands and thousands of these injuries that occur every year. So why is this happening? Why are we today doing something that even Neanderthals knew you shouldn't do? Well, the answer clearly is that people do dumb things with technology, including nail guns, especially nail guns. People disable the safety mechanisms in order to allow the nail gun to fire more rapidly, or in order to make it easier to remove nails that occasionally get jammed in the mechanism, or just to do stupid things like shooting at targets across the room, or apples on their friends' heads, or apples on their own heads. Really, really dumb stuff. Now, fortunately though, if you should find yourself with a nail in your head, you can go to nailgunlawyer.com. Really, that is an actual website for a firm of attorneys in New York. And they will go to court and argue on your behalf that your injury was caused by a design or manufacturer defect. as opposed to a defect in your judgment or impulse control. But anyway, the point is that people do stupid things with technology, and technology is a mixed blessing. You know, it allows us to do great things, but also very, very stupid things, and it amplifies the consequences of that stupidity. So that the consequences are more immediate, more catastrophic, more widespread. And we had a really good example of that just a couple of weeks ago on the stock market. I'm sure you all heard or read about GameStop and what happened there with a crowd of people who gathered on online forums like Reddit, social media, and they kind of built themselves up into a fervor of animosity toward some Wall Street hedge funds, and then took to their online trading apps to launch a coordinated buying spree that ratcheted up the price of GameStop shares to stratospheric levels. They did this primarily to stick it to those Wall Street hedge funds, the short sellers who had bet the share price would go down. And the impact of all this was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it was sudden, it was massive, it was unprecedented, and really, you could say, a triumphant demonstration of the ability of technology to connect and empower ordinary citizens. But it was also completely daft. I mean, it was just utterly stupid, because what the crowd was doing was simply repeatedly leapfrogging itself in a buying spree that was untethered to any reality touching GameStop's rather diminishing business prospects. So with nothing real supporting this trading, it very predictably all collapsed within a couple of days. And as a result, many of the folks in this flash mob wound up holding overvalued shares, and they took big losses. So this thing actually hurt a lot of people. And I think it's fair to ask, when all this was going on, where was the law? Especially the law that's supposed to protect investors. I can tell you, it wasn't out there stopping the GameStop train wreck. That was done by the online trading platforms themselves. They got so scared by what they were seeing that they just shut down kind of and stopped accepting more buy orders from their clients. But meanwhile, our market regulators were essentially just standing around gawking at the unfolding lunacy. And you know, now they're all saying that they're going to look at this very closely and make sure that it wasn't all some sort of market manipulation in disguise. I suppose that's okay for them to do, but you know, really only if you think the law should only play defense, and only after the game is over and everybody's gone home. Myself, I would argue that the law needs to be more proactive in these situations. And there needs to be recognition that the increasing pace of innovation in our society will cause these sorts of technology-fueled outbreaks of mass idiocy to happen more frequently, to unfold more quickly, and to spread more widely, and pose increasing risk to our economy and to the welfare of our society. So our lawmakers and regulators really need to get better at predicting why and when and where these sorts of things will occur, these outbreaks will occur. And they also, at the very least, need to develop better rapid response capability to contain these outbreaks when they happen and to neutralize them. This is so important, and it's really urgent, because the next emerging disruptive innovation could be quite extraordinary and really seismic. Here I'm talking about the prospect, or really the probability, that big tech companies like Google and Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, and their ilk, that those companies will soon enter the wealth management business. They are already in the neighborhood. They're very big in payments, and they've all established beachheads in banking. So it's unlikely that they're going to stop there. And when you think about it, I mean, just think of what they could do with their advanced artificial intelligence capability. They could build a digitized personal financial assistance service that would go way beyond robo-advising. It would be something engineered to comprehensively optimize all aspects of your financial life. It would deal not only with your investments and your retirement plan, tax sheltering your income, but also just, paying your bills, managing all of your cash flow, building your budget, monitoring your pension, determining whether you'd be better off to lease or buy a car, or whether your annual bonus should be used to pay down your mortgage or go into your RRSP. It could look for and apply for scholarships for your kids' tuition and shop for a better insurance deal for you and renew your mortgage on the best rates available worldwide. In short, it would be like having an online financial planner, portfolio manager, and personal CFO all rolled into one. And it would work relentlessly to make you wealthier 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it would just free you to live your life. Instead of focusing on your own finances, it would do it for you. And even better than that, because of big tech's massive scale, this could be done without any trading commissions and without fees based on a percentage of your assets under management. Instead, this could be delivered to you with a monthly subscription fee, kind of like Netflix. A fee that will allow, a fee system that would allow this program to be completely agnostic in the choice of investment products for you, investment strategies for you. It would have no financial incentive to prefer one of those over another. And so conflicts of interest would be gone. And instead, this system would just constantly, methodically do what's best for you every time, all the time. Sounds pretty appealing, doesn't it? And the thing is, this is not science fiction. The technology to do this already exists. All the cybertronic online user interface, the advanced AI and machine learning capability, the networked harnessing of market data and personal financial data drawn and interconnected in real time. All of that exists. Big tech runs that stuff every day. And you're already all integrated into their digital ecosystem. You and billions of other people around the planet all rely on big tech companies for your communications, your internet connectivity, your information search, your cloud storage, your online banking and e-commerce. You already trust them with all these vital things, and you're already comfortable with the user experience that they provide. So when they roll out this new marvel, it's going to be incredibly attractive. It's going to be almost irresistible. But it's also going to come with some profound legal issues. And I'm not talking about just garden variety issues like privacy of personal information or system security to prevent hacking and identity theft. I'm talking about things like data sovereignty, about who's going to own the transactional data that this system kicks out, and who's going to determine how that data gets shared and used, and who profits from the harvesting of it, the mining of it, the aggregating of it. And think also about issues like legal liabilities that flow from harmful biases that may be implanted in the algorithms that animate this system's thinking? That is not a simple question, because computers aren't unbiased logic boxes. They come sort of equipped with their programmers' biases and assumptions and preconceptions that all get written into the computer code, the operating system, and in that fashion are kind of unintentionally infected or infecting the machines. But biases can be deliberately inserted as well. It can be little electronic nudges and wedges that cause subtle shifts in the system's equilibrium and tilt it in the direction of somebody else's profit and pocket. So will the law of the future protect us from those things? Will it be able to truly conceptualize the harm that those things cause? And will it be able to formulate adequate remedies for that harm? These are the kind of issues of the future that lawyers of the future are going to have to chew on. And while it may be impossible for us to predict exactly what the world of tomorrow will be like and what those issues will be, some things are already certain. The future will be complex, it will be technological, and it will be human. And therefore, yes, it will be a little bit stupid. We're going to need futurist legal scholars and futurist advocates to meet the challenges posed by this combustible combination of complexity and ingenuity and humanity. And so, given that, I want to thank all of you at U of T for launching these forward-looking programs that we're celebrating today, that are aimed to give us those futurist lawyers. But I also have to beg you, on behalf of the legal profession, including our friends at nailgunlawyers.com, I have to beg you not to train these young people too well. Please don't try to neutralize all of the future's dumbass things, because, you know, without a little bit of human stupidity, lawyers of the future are not going to be able to make a living. And so let me, with that, let me leave you with something, in the hopes that it will still be relevant long into the future. I'll leave you with the words of the traditional barrister's toast, in which we raise our glass to celebrate the glorious uncertainty of the law and the good health of foolish and unreasonable people everywhere. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Neil. We really appreciate you joining us tonight and handling the keynote address and giving us so much to think about moving forward. I'd also like to thank Dean Brunnée and Dean Iacobucci for joining us this evening, and also to Anthony Niblett and Ivy Lamb for their support, and also to everyone who attended this event. Thank you so much for coming out and learning more about the programs. I'll send out a quick email afterwards that will have information about the websites for both the Investor Protection Clinic and the Future of Law Lab, and so you'll be able to get in touch with us moving forward. Thank you so much for attending tonight, and we look forward to hearing from you. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you again to all our panelists.